Melbourne launched a major initiative to stimulate the housing market, designating 50 activity centres as key development zones and planning to build 300,000 apartments and townhouses. They've even sweetened the deal by reducing stamp duty on off-the-plan purchases. Now, not only do first-home buyers receive reductions, but second-time buyers, investors, and even overseas investors can benefit from the discount. What exactly are these measures? What impact will they have on the market? Is Melbourne's housing market about to hit bottom and rebound? Should you buy these properties? Could this be a trap set by the government? Hi, I'm Alex. Welcome to Oz Property Strategy, where I share information about real estate investment, economic trends, and wealth creation. If you like this video, smash the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell to watch new weekly videos. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Victorians who buy an apartment will soon save thousands of dollars in stamp duty under the government's plan to slash the rate. Today's announcement will see a new 12-month stimulus plan to encourage developers to build and bring in more affordable housing options.
On October 21st, Jacinta Allen, the Premier of Victoria, announced a brand new stamp duty reduction policy. For three types of properties that have not yet started construction or are not yet completed, apartments, units, and townhouses, commonly known as off-the-plan properties, stamp duty will be reduced to lower the upfront costs of buying a home. This aims to increase construction speed and make off-the-plan properties more affordable for more people. This temporary incentive will last for a year. Over the next year, this policy will provide $55 million in subsidies to people purchasing off-the-plan properties. How exactly will this money be spent? What are the details of the subsidy? Who benefits and who doesn't? To understand the policy, we need to look at the differences between the current first-home buyer stamp duty concessions and the new policy. Victoria already has a stamp duty reduction policy applicable to first-home owner-occupiers. To understand this policy, you must grasp the concept of dutiable value to calculate how much stamp duty reduction you can get. If the property's dutiable value is less than $600,000, the stamp duty is completely waived. If it's between $600,000 and $750,000, a partial stamp duty reduction applies. For existing properties, the dutiable value is simply the contract price. For due contract house and land packages, the dutiable value is the land contract price. The key difference lies in the off-the-plan apartments, townhouses, units, and single contract house and land packages. In these cases, the dutiable value equals the contract price minus the construction costs incurred after signing the contract. For example, a first-home buyer purchases an off-the-plan apartment for $620,000, signing the contract before construction begins. 6 months before the completion, the developer informs the buyer's lawyer that $465,000 was spent on construction after the contract was signed. Therefore, the property's dutiable value is $620,000 minus $465,000 equals $155,000. Since the dutiable value is less than $600,000, no stamp duty is payable. If, in this example, the contract was signed when construction was 50% complete, the construction cost incurred after signing would be $465,000 divided by 2 equals $232,500. The dutiable value would then be $620,000 minus $232,500 equals to $387,500. If the property is fully built before signing the contract, the dutiable value equals the contract price. There are 10 different scenarios with examples on the Victorian State Revenue Office website. If you're curious, please take a look. If you're interested in the first home buy schemes in Victoria and across Australia, you can watch APS060 for a detailed explanation. The above describes the existing stamp duty reduction policies. The new policy, which was announced on October 21st, introduced several major changes. In a sense, it restores the stamp duty concession method that existed before July 2017. Number 1, expanded eligibility. Previously, only first-home owner-occupiers could enjoy stamp duty reductions. Now, anyone can, including companies and trusts, whether owner-occupiers or investors. Number 2, no price cap. There was previously a price cap on the property. Now there's no cap. Properties of any price can enjoy stamp duty reductions. Number 3, applicable property types. The new policy applies only to off-the-plan apartments, units, and townhouses. Or you can understand it as any off-the-plan property with a strata title. A strata title means the property has common areas like corridors, lobbies, shared walls, or shared driveways. Detached houses, house and land packages, and duplexes do not fall under strata title. Number 4, effective dates. The new policy is effective from October 21st and lasts for 1 year, based on the contract signing date. As long as you sign the contract within this period, you're eligible, regardless of when the property settles. Property contracted before October 21st are not eligible for the new subsidy. Number 5, existing benefits still apply. Existing first home buy grants and stamp duty reductions still apply. Number 6, overseas individuals are also eligible for the new stamp duty reduction, but it does not affect the calculation of the stamp duty surcharge. In Victoria, the stamp duty surcharge is called the Foreign Purchaser Additional Duty. The calculation method for this new stamp duty reduction is very similar to the old one. Here's an example. Michelle holds a Chinese passport with no permanent residency, no citizenship, no visa, and has never been to Australia, a pure overseas investor. On the 1st of December this year, she spends $1 million to buy an off-the-plan apartment in Melbourne that hasn't started construction yet. The developer informs her solicitor that the construction cost of this property is $400,000. Therefore, the dutiable value is $1 million minus $400,000 equals $600,000. Stamp duty is calculated based on the dutiable value of $600,000, resulting in a payable amount of $31,070. Please note, if Michelle were a local investor, the treatment would be the same. If she were a local first home buyer, she could also use the first home buy stamp duty reduction. Since the dutiable value is $600,000, no stamp duty is payable. That is, for this off-the-plan property worth $1 million, a first home buyer doesn't need to pay any stamp duty and can also receive a $10,000 first home buy grant. Now returning to the example, if Michelle purchases the property when construction is 50% complete, the dutiable value construction cost would be $400,000 divided by 2 equals $200,000. The dutiable value becomes $1 million minus $200,000 equals $800,000. The stamp duty payable would be $43,070. Please note, if Michelle were a local investor, the treatment would be the same. If she were a first home buyer, she wouldn't get any additional benefits because the amount exceeds the $750,000 threshold, making her ineligible for the first home buy grant and the original stamp duty reduction. In the above considerations, we've only looked at stamp duty. Now that Michelle is an overseas individual, we also need to calculate the stamp duty surcharge. When calculating the surcharge, the new housing subsidy does not apply. The contract price of the property is the tax base. For $1 million property, the stamp duty surcharge is 8% at $80,000, no exceptions. So what is the policy trying to achieve? Number 1, stimulate new home sales. Many developers have reported to the government that off-the-plan properties aren't selling. Many of these large developers, along with the banks and construction companies, were supporters of the current government in the last election. Now the Victorian government has messed up the economy, making it hard for real estate and related industries to make money. Starting next year, the Labour Party will begin preparing for the 2026 state election. So this policy will stimulate Victoria's economy and is also a way to win votes and reduce public dissatisfaction. Number 2, boost construction through sales. When sales decline, construction naturally slows down. The engine driving 18 upstream and downstream industries stall, value creation halts, and the government collects less tax. If houses aren't built, supply won't meet demand, and the issue of people struggling to afford homes can't be resolved. Therefore, stimulating sales is essential. Number 3, promote pre-sales to advance project progress. For developers, obtaining bank construction loans requires completing a certain number of pre-sales. For instance, in a project with 100 apartments, they need to sell 50 to 60 to secure the loan and start construction. If they borrow from non-bank financial institutions, they can get the loan without any pre-sales, but the interest rates are slightly higher. So it's not that the builders don't want to start construction, they just can't get affordable loans. The government's new policy can directly assist the bank loan business. This new policy applies to off-the-plan properties, indicating that the government wants to boost the entire industry and get transactions moving. The goal isn't to raise house prices, but prices will inevitably increase. Why? In the entire industry, the government first gives up tens of thousands of dollars to ease the conflict between developers demanding high prices and buyers who can't afford them, bringing prices closer to facilitate transactions. Initially, buyers pay less stamp duty, reducing the overall transaction cost, and suddenly realize they can afford that off-the-plan property that is $50,000 more expensive. Note that every $10,000 saved in cash due to a fourfold leverage allow for an additional $50,000 in property price. So those who originally wanted to buy off-the-plan properties naturally got a good deal. Hesitation turns into action. That's the first wave of people who have already acted. Those who react a bit slower start considering buying off-the-plan properties, but the properties at the original price or discounted have already been snapped up by the first wave. Seeing profit opportunities, developers have no reason not to raise prices, taking some benefit from the government's concessions. This is the second wave. After some time, when the price of off-the-plan properties have stabilized with slight increases, people start to think more rationally and begin to hesitate. They will buy, but slowly. This is the third wave. Have you ever wondered why this policy only lasts for 1 year? Let's see what the Victorian Treasurer has to say.
If not by the end of this year, then certainly by early next year, we'll start to see interest rates come down.
So the Victorian government has calculated this well. Before the policy ends, interest rates will have already been cut. The underlying message is that with interest rate cuts, all of Melbourne's housing market problem can be solved. I'm afraid I have to disagree. Melbourne's economic and housing market issues are too big to be solved quickly. For first-home buyers, if you originally wanted to buy an off-the-plan property to live in, but were hesitating due to the price cap on concessions, wondering whether to buy within the cap or exceed it and give up the concession, then the new policy is beneficial because it saves you more money without altering your original plan. For Australians who are not first-home buyers or are investors, previously there were no stamp duty concessions. Now there are, and you can save tens of thousands of dollars when buying a property, which is also beneficial. But would you invest in an apartment or townhouse just to save on stamp duty? For overseas investors, buying off-the-plan properties does save you a small amount, but the FARB fees for the foreign investment approval remain unchanged. The stamp duty surcharge remains unchanged. The land tax remains unchanged. The land tax surcharge remains unchanged. And the vacancy tax remains the same. Transaction and holding costs have not significantly decreased. Paying less stamp duty should absolutely not be the reason for overseas investors to decide to purchase off-the-plan apartments or townhouses in Melbourne. On the day the policy was announced, I saw various media and influencers saying that Melbourne has introduced a new policy, that now is the window to buy off-the-plan properties. Hurry up, buy now or it will be too late. When I see this, I get upset. It's okay to shout a couple of times when selling something, but as a buyer, if you believe it, that's your problem. If you have a budget of $1 million, would you buy an off-the-plan property in Melbourne? Is it just to save a few $1,000s on stamp duty? If you think this way, congratulations, you've fallen into Victorian government's trap. Melbourne will become a city crowded with apartments in the future, with apartments and townhouses springing up like mushrooms after rain. Property prices will find it increasingly hard to rise. Then you're stuck in reinforced concrete, wanting to refinance but unable to, because apartments and townhouses appreciate too slowly. In some areas, property prices may even decline further. In my view, only those with very limited budgets, who have owner-occupying needs and don't care whether the property price appreciates, can take advantage of this new policy. They say there's a housing market crisis in Melbourne because ordinary people can't afford homes. But there are plenty of one-bedroom apartments for about $500,000 and house and land packages in Melbourne's western suburbs for $600,000 to $700,000. Melbourne's average house price ranks third from the bottom among Australia's 8 capital cities. Even Adelaide is more expensive than Melbourne. If you still can't afford such low prices, I really don't know whether it's a problem with the house prices or your ability to make money. In this situation, Melbourne's approach is to increase housing supply to keep prices from rising. Melbourne also released another important policy last Sunday that many people may have overlooked. On Sunday, Jacinta Allen announced the establishment of 50 high-density development zones, or the so-called activity zones. Most of these zones are located within 800 meters of train or light rail stations along the Sandringham, Frankston, and Glen-Waverley lines in the southeast, and some are around future rail loop stations. The Victorian government's plan is to build 300,000 high-density, high-rise apartments and townhouses in these areas over the next 26 years, averaging 11,500 properties per year. The announcement on Sunday even drew protests from affected residents. Building apartments over 20 stories will permanently change the lives of local residents and the trajectory of property prices in the area. Even the house prices of traditional good areas with many new apartments may be affected. If there are suddenly 10 high-rise buildings in a cozy and nice suburb, won't the supermarkets become overcrowded? Can you still get a spot in the kindergarten? People with assets worth $3 million sharing infrastructures with those worth $600,000. Will those with choices still buy houses there? It's clear that the Victorian government's solution to the current housing market crisis is apartments for everyone. Building a large number of apartments on a large scale to provide for those who can't afford homes is a good thing from a social perspective, but from an investment perspective, it will be devastating. In the future, Melbourne will face a situation where the poor live in apartments and the rich live in houses. Apartment prices won't appreciate. Well, maybe it will, but very slowly. The poor will be trapped, unable to upgrade or become wealthy, spending their lives working to repay loans to the bank. Meanwhile, the rich lives in houses, which becomes increasingly valuable, accumulating more wealth. I can't reach people who don't watch my video, but our channel's property investor fans, please don't be fooled. If you've made it this far, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share this with your friends. Turn on the notification bell to watch new weekly videos. And have a good one. Bye.